Buenas and half a day to our listeners on Guam and in the CNMI. It's now time for Total Health right here on Joy FM Radio, where your questions get answered by health professionals. If you have any health-related questions, we would love to hear from you. Call your questions and comments in at 472-1111 or text or WhatsApp 686-9999. If you're in the CNMI, please call 323-1113. Welcome everybody to Total Health.
Well, hello everyone. Here is Total Health again, and it is me, Elena, Taneva, the co-host, and I have a very special guest today. Last week, we had Dr. Geslani, who had been our director at the SDA clinic for more than 15 years. And I love having Dr. Geslani, and I love the topics and the insights that he has. But today, I'm saying that the speaker or our guest is so special because he is the son of Dr. Geslani, and I have
Yes.
I have Dr. Van Geslani here today. Hi, Van. How are you?
Hi, Elena. I'm glad to be here. I'm doing well.
I am so glad that you agreed to participate in our emotional health talk today, because the fourth week of every month we are talking about emotional health. We realize how important emotional health is, and I would like to tell our listeners that you are an internist.
Yes, I'm an internal medicine physician, board certified. Actually, graduate from Guam Adventist Academy, class of '99. Went to Loma Linda University for my medical school and residency, and now I'm a practicing physician living in Northern California.
Yeah, I didn't know where I need to present you from, if you are from California or you consider yourself from Guam.
No, Guam is home.
Guam is
I
home,
grew
right?
up here and went to school here, and I always considered Guam home. It's nice to be home.
And this is your first time back since you left to go to school.
Yes, it's been many years since I've been off island. Been pleased and blessed that I can bring my family. They've never been to Guam before. We're enjoying the beautiful people and the spirit of family and the spirit of collaboration and just being together with others and loved ones. And also, of course, I'm enjoying the beautiful nature God has created here on the island.
Fantastic. And we're so glad you're here, because even though we're going to talk about an emotional health, we see a place for internal medicine physician explaining to us what exactly is happening to our bodies when we have two overwhelming emotions going on in ourselves. So today we continue the 13 weeks to love. As you know, we are having this program in which we deal with emotional health. We are speaking about problems that usually we try to avoid speaking about it, or we have more important things to talk about it. It's easier for us to talk about diseases than talking about emotions. But we are willing to really bring it to the next level and talk and look at the issues at their very depth. And today our topic is about hatred. You say, oh, well, that's not a nice topic. It is, I'd rather talk about anything else, but hatred is not something I really want to talk. Well, we have to. We have to. There is so much hatred going on around, and we can't talk about love unless we face the issue of hating and hatred. And with this uprising, violence that our children are witnessing nowadays, there is a problem. There is something that's happening in us, in our emotions, that we are not solving, we are not facing, and we just, hear about it when we hear about this, school shooting incident. More than 246 million children every year, this is a statistics from December last year, are facing violence. At least 4,000 kids get killed in a school shooting incidences around the world, and more than 3 million witness all that. Where does this happen? Like, what is happening really with our society? And we are willing to talk about it because hate is actually a public health problem. It's one of the social determinants nowadays, and more physicians and scientists are looking into the cause of hatred so we can, mitigate it and deal with it before it becomes out of control and before we have to really involve authorities and become like a serious threat to the society. Van, you agree with me that significant portion of our violence in this world, of course, comes because, and it's based on hatred. It seems that we as humans, if we don't know something, we object it, we push it away, and we hate it. We are just not born with this understanding that there is not necessarily things that need to be good or bad. They can just be different, and we don't have to hate each other by being different. But by speaking about that, bringing awareness about that, we hope that next time when we see a sign of violence or somebody stating things that they hate, we can be more mindful, and we can actually talk to that person, stop that hatred as we can. Yeah, people find so many reasons to hate one another: their class, their gender, their authority, their religion, skin color, ethnicity, sexual orientation, creed, customs, nationality, political opinions, physical attributes, or anything else. We find a reason to hate others. Is it justified? Maybe in our eyes, maybe justified. Maybe sometimes we have the real valid reasons to hate something, but hating somebody can bring to more serious consequences. And so I have you here today because we would really like to look at the hatred and what it can bring into our life and how it can actually affect our health without even realizing. Yeah, emotions do affect our health, right?
Yeah, definitely. I really liked how you said at the beginning that our emotional health and our physical health, these are not separate things. God created us as to be all connected. When we have good emotional health, it also reflects in our physical health. And when our emotional health is poor, it also affects our physical health as well. Hatred and other emotions that are sometimes out of control, things like stress, anxiety, hatred, these things, people may think it doesn't affect my physical health, but in fact it does. There is a connection.
There is a connection, and honestly, I am becoming more mindful when my patients come to my clinic and I look at their blood pressure and I see a high blood pressure. I usually ask them, have you eaten, more salt recently? Have you not exercised, or have you eaten more unhealthy food? But I rarely ask them, hey, sit down. Is there anything going on? Is there anything that right now it's really bothering you? Is everything okay at home? We rarely touch this portion, and it is that important.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a very clear link between things like high blood pressure, also known as hypertension, and other cardiovascular diseases, and our emotional health. The link between those things are very strong. If you don't mind me going a little bit, talking about the stress response, Elena, if that's okay. God created our body amazing, and he created our body so that when we encounter things in our lives that are dangerous, things that are life and death, for example, if you have a wild animal chasing after you, or if you have a car that's just about to hit you, God created our body to have an immediate response to those types of dangers. When we encounter anything dangerous like that, our heart starts to beat faster. The blood vessels in our body start to constrict or get tighter. More energy is released into our body to go to our muscles so that we can have more ability to escape the danger. And then when the danger has passed, then those responses calm down. They don't stay elevated after the danger has passed. But when something in our body or something in our life creates the same response, known as stress response, but it's not life-threatening, maybe it is something at work, maybe it is something at home, maybe it is something where you're hating somebody or you're just not feeling good towards someone, those same exact responses that cause our heart rate to beat faster, our blood vessels to constrict, those create things like high blood pressure. Those create things like damage in our blood vessels. When your blood vessels get tightened, the blood flow through the vessels becomes more turbulent, creating more damage on the inside of the blood vessels. These are places where cholesterol and fat and other plaques can attach. These things lead to heart attack and stroke. All of that is linked to things like our emotions, to our how we respond to stressful situations. So yes, I'm glad you brought up the blood pressure issue. That definitely has a strong link between our physical health and our emotional health.
We don't have many studies on hatred, how it affects our blood pressure, because there is nobody that would deliberately say here, hey, I am right now very hateful. Study me. So we don't have those,
Yeah.
studies. But we certainly know that an angry person, when they are very upset, when we check their blood pressure, it's high, and then we say, "Oh, okay, this is because you're very emotionally charged right now. That's why most likely your blood pressure is high. Let's calm down. Let's calm down. Let's talk about something else. Have a meal. Let's calm down, and then we can check the blood pressure." So hatred, we haven't studied it very well, but certainly can have an effect on us. And if you're saying we have constantly this response, fight or flight, like even a small trigger can bring this experience in our body over and over and over again, sometimes not even giving us break to break this vicious circle.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And to be honest, we all encounter stressful situations throughout our life. There are things that legitimately can make us frustrated or make us angry. But when we have this high stress level all the time, our response to the stresses around us becomes more heightened. And so somebody who may not have a high level of stress, if they encounter something that is frustrating, they may have a stress response, but then can come down from that right away. Whereas others, if they have things going on in their life, perhaps like hatred, perhaps like other emotions that are really revving them up, they might encounter the same exact situation, and they become more revved up. They become more agitated. The stress response affects them in a greater way. And so, yes, definitely, these things can attenuate our physical health as well as emotional health.
Right. And before we, even jump a little bit more about the stress, I would like to bring us back to the hatefulness, the hatred. So the word hatred actually comes from an Old English word, which means hata, which means enemy. And it is very important how we perceive the world around us. If we see it in a very hostile way, then we are going to have all these type of responses and all these type of reactions constantly. And we can get into a circle of like being victim to those circumstances and always being very suspicious to others, always thinking the worst of others, and not having peace in a daily basis. But if we are people that we can catch ourselves, we can't stop our negative emotions. We do have them. Everybody has them. Even, those people that we look up to and we admire, we do have those emotions. If we catch ourselves in that, stop for a moment, check yourself out, check why you might have those emotions. And if you continue, where would that lead you to? But we will talk a little bit more about that just right after the break.
In an age of super processors and lightning-quick results, we've become used to immediate solutions and feedback. Unfortunately, in real life, answers don't come as quickly as they do on Google. Whatever you're searching for, looking in the right place is always the best place to start. God's Word, church, fellowship. Search them out. You might be surprised to find not only answers, but learn to ask some new questions. Joy FM. Gravity is a gift. Without it, one step outdoors, and Carl floats away like a hot air balloon. Too much gravity, we'd be much shorter.
I'm under so much pressure lately.
Yet God gave it to us in just the right amount.
Much better.
Financial contributions are a gift. When gifts arrive to meet our needs, we live in
Now
the
that's better.
moment. We hate feeling like
I'm under so much pressure lately.
we appreciate everything you do for us.
Much better.
Joy FM.
Family-friendly radio. JoyFMRadio.net.
Si Joe Ismaasi, and thanks for listening to Total Health on Joy FM. We want to hear from you. Call in with your health-related questions at 472-1111. In Guam or in the CNMI, the number to call is 323-1113. Text or WhatsApp us at 686-9999. And now, back to the show.
So here we are again with Total Health, and I have Dr. Van Geslani. We're talking about an interesting topic, and it's about hatred and our health and how they are related. Of course, we would like to have a life that it is empty of hatred. But I wish we live in an ideal world, but we don't. And we face hatred, some of us, on a daily basis. And it is important to know how we can cope with that, what we can do about it, how we can face it, and how actually we can benefit, once we reverse that feeling. And as humans, hatred doesn't come naturally right away. It comes from events of being hurt, events of not being understood, events of not being dealt in a proper manner, really feeling that you're an outsider and nobody really in this world understands you. And then, of course, different feelings like guilt and shame and denial, fear, misapprehension, despair can absolutely bring any one of us in situations that we might catch ourselves of having not those nice feelings, but having some of those negative feelings. And I don't know how exactly guilt is related to our health or our blood pressure, cardiovascular system, mental health, denial, blame, and all those feelings. But when we sum them up together, and when we especially don't resolve them, don't work on them, they can bring to certain more serious conditions and illnesses. And Van, I'm sure you have seen many patients that they come for a physical condition, but actually it's it was brought by an emotional health or some some mental health issues.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that's really interesting is that because we were talking earlier about the link between our emotional health and our physical health, to be honest, I really see those things as one, which is basically just how our body or how healthy we are as a person, as a human. In addition to the link that you were talking about, it's interesting to see that when we are dealing with physical health, our emotional state can actually affect that as well. An example that I see often are people who are dealing with things like pain. So, for example, patients with cancer, they might be having severe pain because of cancer, but the pain is affected by their emotional state. Patients who are dealing with pain, if their emotional state is angry or they feel resentful, then they actually experience pain much more. Whereas patients might be experiencing a similar type of cancer diagnosis or similar type of cancer in their body. But if they're approaching it with more a positive outlook, then that actually makes the pain that they experience less. Pain is a very complex thing. We used to think that we feel pain just because of pain receptors in our body that travel to our brain. But those receptors are not only affected by the pain stimulus itself, but also by our emotional state. And so there are serious conditions that can come from our emotional state and be linked together. And so there needs to be more study to see maybe exactly what's causing this link, but we do see that it's there.
Right. I'm so glad you mentioned the word pain, because really pain is what triggers the most the hatred. When you really are hurting deep down and you can't understand, you don't see any hope, for the pain, and you don't know how to cope with it. And sometimes you lash it out in a hatred, and you can do something even more dreadful of that. Pain changes the personality. Even if you might be like the most proper person, when you're in pain in a long time, like year after year, and you have to suffer for a long duration, that absolutely can change you. You might not even recognize who you are when you're dealing with so much pain. And this is what our patients sometimes, they just have to find different ways. And sometimes we look for outlets that maybe not be the right ones. So pain also intensifies when we are fearful. There are so many studies in which they show that if you take the fear away, the pain decreases even almost by half. Like, hey, I know you're having right now this disease, but, with some medication, with some exercise, it can decrease the inflammation, and then you'll be even healthier than before. So God has chosen pain to be like a alarm mechanism for us, that there is something going on. And I'm sure that you see many patients first because they have pain, otherwise they wouldn't come to you. And then you discover that they have some conditions, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, a lot of times pain is that warning sign that there is something going on. And like you were mentioning earlier, sometimes when we have to dig a little bit deeper, that something that is going on is physical, but there's also an emotional component as well.
Yes, this week I had a patient and a husband and a wife, and I was seeing the wife, but the husband was like, everything I would say, he would just contradict me and, interrupt me. And so at some point I stopped and I said, can I see your wife? He said, talk to her. I'm not a patient. And so he was very, very inappropriate, very mean. And I felt like I really need to walk out from this situation because it's really so unfair. I'm trying to help, but I'm really treated that way. But I stood my ground. I helped his wife, and she called me the next day. She said, I would like to apologize for my husband. He's a combat vet, and he's going through PTSD. There is so much going on. And okay, so I didn't have that information. I'm glad I didn't walk away. I'm glad I stood there. But in the future, if that happens, if I have somebody that has an attitude like that, I should think what's going on behind. What's going on behind the scenes? Why is that person, so irritated? Why he's showing this literally hateful attitude, and have more sympathy.
Yeah, that's a good point. You brought up earlier that hatred is something that we see a lot in the world around us. And I think that's definitely one of the strategies that we can use to combat hatred, and that's to have empathy. There are a lot of studies now going on that look at the positive benefits of having empathy towards others. You might have heard of this famous quote. I actually don't remember who it's attributed to. Maybe you can, if you know who said the quote, but the quote goes something like this. I'm paraphrasing. Be kind. Everybody you encounter is fighting a tough battle. We don't always know what's going on behind the scenes. And sometimes as a physician, I encounter patients who are angry, patients who are yelling, patients who are very upset. And I have to take a step back and say, you know what? I don't think it's personal. I don't think they're angry at me. I think there is something going on, whether it's in their health or something going on, in outside or in their home, something stressful that's bothering them. And I try to have empathy for them, not try to take it personal.
No, you're very right. And I am determined to see, in every person that acts like that, it's like a call for help. Instead of, saying anathema, I do not want to have anything to do with that. Let's see what's behind the scenes. And if we all have this attitude when we see somebody acting in a negative way and, and we are interested to get to know what's happening, what's going on, I think we would have avoided so many of the world's disasters and catastrophes in this world. There was a study that was done in the famous Stanford prison in which scientists decided to see if prisoners are treated in a bad way, how this is gonna be reflected. And the study was meant to be for 14 days. That was in the time we didn't have, IRBs and great,
Yes.
like authorities that will follow that. It was in 1971. And so as guards started treating prisoners in a mean way, they wanted to see what the response would be. And they needed to be studied within 14 days. They had to stop the study on the 6th day, because the result was just so bad. So if we implement hatred and constantly, the result is going to be like disastrous. We know about wars, we do not want to repeat the World War I and World War II. We would like to think that we have really raised above those things and we would not get to that point. But we still hear about violence on a daily basis. And violence starts just with one wound, with one hurt, with one wrong word, with one wrong action, or with a soul that is misunderstood, was not heard, and is feeling hopeless and helpless in this painful world. So this is our desire today, that we can link a little bit more those attitudes with our health. It affects our emotional health, it affects our physical health as well. We're talking, Van, with Dr. de Berdeleben a few weeks ago. that when we see our patients, we shouldn't just treat their emergency situations. Like if somebody comes with a heart attack, of course, we have to attend to that, but we need to think deeper about it. Okay, you have a heart attack. Why do you have a heart attack? Because you have an underlying chronic condition. Why do you have that? Because maybe you have an underlying lifestyle condition. Something is happening. You're not eating properly. Maybe you have no motivation. You lost desire to really take care of yourself. Okay, why is that? Maybe there is something going socially. Something is going wrong in your family. You're just not understanding each other in the family. The kids are, playing their role. And then, okay, but why there are social issues? Maybe because you're going through emotional issues. Maybe there's some unresolved feelings that you haven't expressed, haven't, shared, worked on them. And you have emotional issues because you might have mental blockages there, maybe some distorted thinkings, something that really makes you believe lies and you're acting in a different way. And why is that? Maybe you do have spiritual issues. You may be angry at God that you have been diagnosed with a disease and you can't understand why you've always been the good person, but life just doesn't happen your way. Maybe there is something very deep down that you disagree with. Maybe you disagree how your life turned around. I don't know about you, but life turns around in a different ways. It's not in a way that we always plan it, and most of us experience that. Therefore, if we go deep into the problem, we might discover things that will be very painful for the individual, but certainly worth our time talking about them.
Yeah, it goes back to the whole theme that we are all connected, and we're not separate. It's not like our mental health is in one box and our physical health is another box. No, all these things are connected. Oftentimes, I work in the hospital as well, and oftentimes when I discharge patients from the hospital, you gave the example of a heart attack, I tell them, you know what, I'm going to prescribe you these medications that I believe you should take for your heart, but if you only take these medicines and don't do anything else, that's not really going to effectively help your health long term. You should take the medicine, but in addition to that, also work on your stress, also work on your emotional health, also work on your diet and exercise. All of these things are linked. And so definitely I really want to applaud you for bringing that holistic viewpoint to health.
And we have too many specialists, and I think we make the medicine like that. Oh, for your nose you have to see this specialist. For this you have to see that specialist. And so we started separating it. But as a clinician, that you have to address it all. Otherwise, we really wouldn't move any further with the health of our patient. Okay, right after the break, we'll continue more on the topic about hatred and health.
Stop for a moment and consider the power of one piece of paper. The Declaration of Independence was written on one piece of paper. The preamble to the Constitution takes up less than one piece of paper. Your home mortgage means nothing until you sign your name on that one final piece of paper. A $1 bill, a $100 bill. Just one piece of paper. Please remember to support us this month with that one piece of paper when you write your check to Joy FM.
Welcome back.
At this station, we don't play games. We aren't here to declare a monopoly on your financial resources. Our operation is legit. We don't ask for what we don't need. Our pursuits aren't trivial. We play great programming designed to encourage and empower you. No checkmate, just us working together to bring the best in Christian programming to our community. With this station, there's no risk involved. Joy FM.
Family-friendly radio. JoyFMRadio.net.
You've been away from home for a while, but even if it's been a short time, it sure feels like a long time. So when you start heading home, whether it's in a car, a bus, or a plane, it sure feels good. Nothing like the feeling of going home. We're a radio station that sees part of our job as helping people find their way home in a spiritual sense. There's probably someone you know who's been away from God for a while, and one way to help them find their way back is to tell them how to find us on the radio dial. And you'll be helping us help others find their way back home. So thanks.
From Joy FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Total Health on Joy FM. Call in with your health-related questions to 472-1111 in Guam. If you live in the CNMI, we want to hear from you too. Call 323-1113 or text or WhatsApp us at 686-9999. And now, here's more Total Health.
Here. All right, we're back here with more Total Health, and I have Dr. Van Geslani. We're having an interesting discussion about hatred, hating, hateful emotions, and health. Dr. Geslani, before our break, we were talking about taking a holistic approach towards health and towards our patients and how we can help them in a better way. Because we are very good in separating things and, tackling just small problem. But as a whole picture, we can have a whole arena of different problems all together. So as we are moving forward, I just wanted to talk about a little bit more about how we can face hatred and actually how we can help each other to have a better resilience when we are faced with negative emotions. I personally have experienced it. I personally have felt it many times, and I was kind of lost, and I regretted that there was nobody to help me deal with those emotions. It's not one of the most natural things that happens to us to feel them, but when you don't know how to cope with them and that you don't know how to deal with them, of course, can bring to actions that later on in life you will regret. So we haven't studied hatred per se very well, but we have studied forgiveness. And we know that forgiveness, or people, maybe you can tell me when you see patients that are very grateful, that are really having a very positive outlook, they somehow seem to have a better overall health.
Yeah, definitely that's true. A sense of the future being better, a sense that you have some agency in your own health, that things aren't just happening to you and you have no say in the matter. Everything is only happening to you. Everything is out of control. Those are patients that I tend to notice that they're not dealing well with their health issues. But those patients who say, what can I do, doc? Is there anything that I can do to improve my own health? Or they have a sense that things could get better, a positive outlook. They actually can deal with their health issues in a more positive way.
But I believe you get to that level at some age. You're not born with that, and you kind of build this resilience, those coping strategies in life that make you more resistant to all the external stress you're going through.
Yeah, definitely. This is a topic of study, resilience. You brought up this term. Another topic that is closely related is a topic of grit. When people are going through difficult times, challenging times, why is it that some people, they are able to push through and come out the other side of their challenges better for it, whereas other people, it really affects them in a negative way? And I think coping strategies have something to do with that.
Right. We become either bitter or better, with every experience. And the more we go through it, the more bitter we become, the serious the consequences. But we need help. Nobody is an island,
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is the man orchestra. We need help, and sometimes we really don't know how to help others. Well, we can't stop the stress. The stress is going to be always there, and I know it. Just life doesn't get easier. We just become stronger. And if we try to regulate and change the whole environment around us, good luck. I don't think we'll get there. But at least we can change ourselves and we can change our attitude. It's not easy. I don't know how, when you break the bad news in a family and you have to tell them that they are having a condition that they might never recover from that. How do you handle that, and what responses have you seen? Have you seen people that right away start blaming others in the family and blaming even God for their condition? Do you see people that say, okay, doc, give me some time to think about it. Let me see what I can do. How do you handle those stressful situations?
Yeah, no, that's one of the toughest things about being in the medical field, is having to break bad news to patients and families. And to be honest, sometimes we in the medical profession could probably do a better job at sharing those types of bad news with patients and families. My approach has always been to just be upfront and honest with patients, but to always tell the patients, this is what's going on, but we will be with you every step of the way. And I think one of the things that's a great coping strategy, as you mentioned, no man is an island, is really social support. This is something that has really been demonstrated in humans and in people, even all the way down to animal studies. I can cite studies that were done years ago where they looked at rats and how they developed ulcers if they were put under a lot of stress. Rats that were subjected to electric shocks just at random time in their cage. Over time, they started having ulcers in their stomachs. But you subject the same rats to the same electric shocks, but then there are friendly rats next door that are nearby. The rats have a friend, someone that they can actually bond with. They don't develop the same amount of ulcers as the rats that don't have any social support. And social support in humans is one of the best coping strategies that we have. Whether it's not having like a family group, whether it's having a church group, whether it's having a friend group, all of these things can allow us to have an outlet for all those negative emotions, like frustration, like anger. These things can be natural, but if we keep it inside, that's going to do us more harm versus if we share that with our social support network. That's one of the things that I really noticed growing up here on the islands, is that people here, family is very important. And making sure that they are staying connected with family can be a good coping strategy towards the stressful things that are happening in life.
Yes, you said that very well. And the antidote actually of, hatred is love. And maybe this is where our pain comes the most, because what about if you don't feel that love? We kind of get disappointed even from people that love us, or maybe we have different expectations and they don't justify those expectations. So there is a lot of places that we can be hurt, but there are also many places that we can heal and then help others and actually grow. We can have a post-traumatic growth.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And I have actually questions. We have several callers, and I have a very good question for you. It says, even though our emotions can cause our pain, what can we do so we can sleep during the night? And some people says the question, grind their teeth, for example, while they're asleep, and they wake up with pain. Is there anything we can do for that apart from taking medications?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be honest, everyone's situation is different. And so definitely, I would say if somebody is experiencing that, of course, to reach out to their own personal, if they have a primary care physician or somebody they're seeing for their own personal health. Like I said, everybody's situation is different, but certain things that can help in terms of sleep. Sometimes people find it difficult to sleep if they have a lot of things going on through their mind. It's hard to turn their mind off when they're right before they're going to sleep. And so some people have found benefit of journaling. Because right before they go to bed, they write down all the things that they're worried about or thinking about or things that are keeping them up at night, and they write it down in a journal, and then they can put that aside. They say, okay, I've written that down. I don't have to worry about it anymore until morning. I can put that aside. When it comes to the issue of grinding the teeth and then having pain, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually know a little bit about that firsthand. I had to see my dentist and get a mouth guard because I was grinding my teeth at night. And basically what my dentist told me is that when you're experiencing pain there in your jaw and your what we call the TMJ, the temporomandibular joint, it's almost kind of like a sprain, like if you sprain your ankle, but then you just sprain the joint in your jaw. And because that's coming from grinding your teeth at night, then trying to find out what that underlying stress is. Sometimes physical, like a mouth guard, can help, but that still doesn't address the underlying stress. So whether that's relaxation, like prayer, like deep breathing exercises, these things before bed can really help relax you. Not looking at your phone before you go to sleep can also help enhance your sleep. And the caller asked about sleep. That definitely is a link with stress. It sometimes can be a vicious cycle, because if you're under a lot of stress, you're not going to be able to sleep well. But then if you can't sleep well, that's going to set your body up for more stress because you're going to be tired the next day. So really, it is connected. And if you can find those sleep hygiene things that can help you at night, it definitely will have a positive compounding effect.
Yes, and everybody heals in a different way, right? And so we kind of have to lure ourselves in one direction or another until we find really what works for us. But I really found that pain, I started seeing pain in a fundamentally different way. I read a book that's called Pain, the Gift Nobody Wants. And it is written by Dr. Paul Brand, that he discovered that the most unique thing that you can have is your pain. Because this is your alert system that there is something going on, and that will prevent you from further danger. And so if we do experience pain, many times it's not inflicted because we have done something wrong. It can be that other people have done something wrong to us. Or maybe it's ourselves that, doing something. How do we deal with that? So I will just quickly mention something if we can help our listeners with that. Dr. Brandt just discovered that when he was trying to help people that had leprosy, they had no feeling and they had no pain. And he realized that they are in more trouble than we that we feel pain, because they will go through the fire and they will not feel anything. They will take a hot shower and they will get all into blisters. And he said, God, if there is one gift I want you to give me, that's the gift of pain. He was walking one of the streets going from India coming back to the States. He fell in one ditch, and when he was able finally to come out of the ditch and went to his hotel room, in the morning when he woke up, he wasn't able to feel his legs. He said, wow, I got leprosy. He started stabbing himself with a fork, and he realized, wow, no, I don't have any sensitivity. He said, God, please bring me the sensitivity of pain. And after a few days, the pain came back. Probably it was because of the pinched nerve he had. And he said, wow, I am very grateful for that gift. Everybody has been going through difficult and painful moments, but God always taught me something out of it. And I decided to embrace the pain in a different way. Okay, even though I don't understand, I didn't sign up for that. I never agreed to have that pain. God, what are you teaching me through all this experience? And I have found every time I go through a painful situation and with God's help, I overcome it, then I'm able actually to help others that are in a similar situation. And I'm sure you, as a physician, if you go through things yourself, you're more able to understand and being more sympathetic to your patients.
Yeah, definitely. And you brought up that sympathy and empathy. That really can be helpful. I mean, and if it's something that we don't experience ourselves, just saying, I don't know exactly how you feel, but I'm here with you.
When you were afraid of something as a kid, they called you a chicken. Now you have those grown-up fears like, how are you going to pay your bills? What if your kids fall into a bad crowd? What if you get sick? So you're all grown up, but in some ways you're still chicken. Well, to combat those chicken tendencies, lock your dial right here. We've got music that can build your faith, and it sure makes things more manageable when you know that God is up long before the roosters crow. Songs and words of faith to fight the chicken in all of us.
From Joy FM.
Mine.
Yes, it's yours.
Mine.
Yes, I know. Yours.
Mine.
Yes, I know. Okay, we're Joy FM, and since you love it so much,
Mine.
you want to take care of it.
Mine?
Financially supporting the ministry outreach of this station helps keep it on the air in good working condition and ensures that you can still call it
Mine.
exactly. Joy FM.
And we're back with more Total Health. Give us a call with your medical questions. Number to call in Guam is 472-1111. If you're in the CNMI, the number to call is 323-1113. Or you can text or WhatsApp us at 686-9999. Now back to the program.
Well, we are back with our last session, and I have Dr. Van Geslani here. He agreed at internet to talk about emotional health and to talk about hatred. I could have challenged you on other questions, but we both agree that emotional health has a very important part in our overall health and something we can certainly not ignore. And so we were talking about pain because that question comes quite frequently. Well, I'm hurting. I don't know how to deal with it. And I developed more understanding and more sympathy for people that are suffering. And the more I go through pain, the more understanding I have. And sometimes I feel people that go through pain, they kind of speak a different language. When they look at each other's eyes, they just know what it is. And, they know the pain of disappointment. They know how they plan things and things just don't happen that way. And sometimes they have expectations from others and God, and it just doesn't happen that way. Not realizing that God already has a better plan. And God already has like a solution that's more beautiful than we have ever thought about it. But until we also build that trust and this connection with God, it takes time, and we all get lost in one or another way. And so, Van, we were talking about coping strategies because obviously we can't stop the hatred right away. We can't stop the pain right away. Like, how do we deal with that? Like, what do you tell your patients how they can become more resilient to overcome those challenges? Do you tell them just, okay, take your medications, or do you give them some more tips to stay healthy?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm reminded when I was a medical student and a resident, one of my mentors would ask patients, and we would observe him like having conversations with patients, and he would ask the patient, what is the difference between pain and suffering? And he would actually make a distinction between the two. And a lot of times patients would at first wonder, what is it that you're talking about? But as they discuss some more, we would discover that patients, yes, they are feeling the physical pain, but they are also feeling suffering, meaning like you talked about the things that they are, because of their disease process, are not able to do anymore. They feel guilt. They feel like somebody has turned against them. Maybe God has turned his back on them, and they feel suffering from that. And it links with the pain, but if you can help one, it sometimes can help the other. I've always found that to be fascinating, how those things are linked. But going back to your original question about tips for dealing with pain, to be honest, the patients that I've seen that have been able to kind of get through their pain have those that have approached it in a multimodality way. Medication is one way for dealing with pain, but it's not the only way. Whether it's things like relaxation techniques, whether it's stretching, whether it's massage, acupuncture, these other techniques for dealing with pain. And sometimes if there is some underlying mental health conditions that are going on, getting those addressed can also help with the chronic pain that they're dealing with. And it's interesting, a lot of the patients that I see that can deal with their chronic pain in a more positive way are those that do have like that sense of social support from their family, and also a strong spiritual connection as well.
Yeah, I always admire those patients. What strong spirit they have, being on dialysis for like 10 years. Mm-hmm. And they still come like as if the world is theirs. And, and you see somebody that's really healthy but have like a tiny problem, that it becomes a very big problem. But the more challenges we face, actually, the more equipped we are to face that. And actually the hatred decreases because, if you let not becoming bitter but better, decreases and makes you really more vulnerable, more understanding, and more helpful to others. There are also other ways that you can deal with, hateful thoughts, painful thoughts. When you begin to feel that way, stop and just take a deep breath. Mm-hmm. Let it out very slowly. Repeat this process for like several times. Take a deep breath. Air certainly helps. Movement certainly helps. And when we move, actually, we produce more myokines, which are called the hope molecules. Actually, this is one of the best discoveries in this century, that we realize that muscles, they actually have an endocrine system, mm-hmm. because they can help us to feel those hope molecules, that the world is not the worst place, but actually can give you some hope for the future. Another challenge is like consciously to challenge your irrational, hateful thoughts. okay, I don't like somebody because of so and so. Why is that? Where is the cause? Is it something in me, that is causing all that? Is there somewhere a place that I need to work on and improve myself so that will not be hurtful to me in the future? You can replace those hateful, irrational thoughts with calmer and rational thoughts. Challenge yourself. Why is that? Okay, I have been diagnosed with a terrible disease. Why is that? Okay, if I haven't done anything about it, maybe it's hereditary. How I'm going to deal with that? Even Dr. Paul Brand, he says, okay, he doesn't exclude God from his pain. I think this is where we really struggle. We exclude God from our pain. When something happens, we are like, God, you turn your back to me. I'm going to do it my way. I'm just so disappointed you are not there for me. Instead of that, we can say, God, look what happened. How are we going to deal with that problem together?
It sounds like what you're talking about really comes, if I were to summarize some of the things that you're talking about, it really comes down to self-awareness and also approaching things with curiosity rather than approaching things with blame or shame. I think that spirit of curiosity, when you can notice something inside of you, like you notice that negative emotion welling up in you like hatred, to take a step back and just ask that question, why? I'm feeling this way, but why am I feeling that way? And kind of going through that in a way that can maybe help you get down to the root of why you're feeling that way. And also to approach the things that are sometimes out of our control in life with also a sense of curiosity. This is going on. It's not really in my control, but what can I do about it right now?
You're very right. And if we have something against somebody, initially we can catch ourselves and stop contacting that person until we grow in a way that we can face that person and we will not have those hateful thoughts. We can employ some distracting strategies, and I can't think of a better strategy than exercising, taking care of yourself, your own health, and by doing that, you will start loving yourself. Self-love is also very important, and especially when you're recovering from painful moments in the past. Work on yourself, love yourself, do something that will boost your self-esteem, that will boost your relationships, social relationships, and your health. By doing that, you would already win one soul, and that will be you, and then you can conquer the world. So I have thought about some Bible verses, but I'm sure you also might think about Bible verses that we can give as like tools to our patients in difficult moments, that they may think about it and they can stay close to God rather than avoid God in difficult moments.
Yeah, and one of the Bible verses I was thinking about, and thank you, Elena, for bringing that up. To be honest, like the Bible is a book that has so many relevant things for our mental health and our physical health as well. You were talking about hatred and the link between negative emotions and our health. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11 says, "Therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing." I'm reminded that one of the ways and tools that we can combat hate and combat the negative emotions and stress in our life is to actually have a spirit of encouragement and have that social support network around us. Again, a lot of times that's with our family, our friend group, our church group, but that spirit of encouraging, that's definitely something that can help our emotional and physical health.
Right. And when we feel those feelings, we shouldn't condemn ourselves and start really downtrodden ourselves, thinking we're the worst person. We all experience those emotions. We all get hurt one or another way by even close ones. Stop for a moment. Think about it. Do not condemn yourself. Think in a way what God is trying to teach you from that pain and from that difficult situation, and rise above it. There are so many things we can say. We just have like few more minutes, but I would like to tell you, when you are fighting in this world, think about an arrow that you have to shoot. An arrow can only be shot by pulling it backwards. So when life is dragging you back with difficulties and challenges, it means that it's going to launch you into something great. So just continue focusing and keep on aiming. Let this passion that you have, going in the wrong direction, be turned into something positive and come something beautiful out of it. And when you catch somebody else going through same emotions, be that helpful hand, stop there and talk to that person. We also have other verses, you know, when we are in a difficult situation, it's important to have somebody else to pull us out. You know, two are better than one, we say.
Yeah, that's right. That's a verse from Ecclesiastes. It talks about, I don't remember the exact verse, but it talks about how two are better than one, because if somebody falls down, he has somebody else that can help him up. Another verse that I was thinking about, you kind of mentioned that analogy of the arrow. When something is pulling you back, it's going to shoot you forward into something that's more positive. Really, one of the best ways to cope with negative emotions, with stress, is really a sense of predictability and a sense of hope for the future. When people don't have hope for the future, that can really cause a lot of stress. But, you know, the Bible says in John 16:33, this is Jesus talking, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. You know, Jesus is telling us that here in this world we will have trouble, but he has overcome.
Exactly. And when we have those destructive emotions, let's replace them with constructive emotions. Let's fight anger, hatred, and fear with compassion, love, and patience, just as the example we have from Jesus.
Be sure to check with your doctors before making any sudden life changes discussed today. Total Health is brought to you in partnership with Guam Seventh-day Adventist Clinic, where health is their mission. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Thank you and si Juas Masi for listening to Total Health right here.